Hello, and welcome to the preview of the wildcard game. After what's surely been one of the most wild Week 17 ending to the season, we're now faced with some surreal, some almost unheard of matchup. Blackie, for the first time in nearly 30 years, a wide receiver won the Heisman, and Browns are in the playoffs again. What the fuck? Are the Browns going to win? Will American Crow be happy that Stefanski's at least not coaching?
Oh, I mean, it's a bit of a powder keg. I thought it was the most Browns thing of all time for Stefanski to give the game ball to Joel Bitonio for being the longest tenured Brown, and, you know, symbolic of how long they haven't made the playoffs, and now they're both COVID.
Don't lick the ball. You lick the ball, you prick.
Good one job.
But no, I
Very good,
don't think they'll win.
So how many times do the Browns run the ball? Let's just cut straight to the American Crow question. We'll start to you, Brash. How many times do they run the ball? And is it more times than American Crow posts in the first quarter of the game?
There'll be a direct portion for every attempted Mayfield. Every time Mayfield dropped back, there'll be 7 posts from American Crow, of which each one will have word run, damn, full, repeated at least 3 times.
Come on now, Philly. You got to give us a better insight into the Baker Mayfield question, which we were asking in the preseason and still asking now. Is he the real deal? Is he going to beat Big Fat Ben? Or do the Steelers finally get their mojo back, smash the Browns into next week?
Yeah, I don't. I'd like to see the Browns win, just because I don't really want to see Pittsburgh win. But I'd like to see the Browns win. I don't think they will. Like I said, I think they've played their playoffs already. I don't really respect a team that celebrates just making the playoffs. So I think that was their goal. They've done it. So I think they'll come out pretty flat this week. Can they win? Yes. Do they need to run 50 times to win? Probably. But Baker is a compliment to their running game, not the other way around. So I don't think he's going to win this one off his own arm, but they need to run the ball a lot.
Blackie, the Steelers in Week 17 against the Browns ran the ball less than 20 times and threw for, attempt 42 or 43 passes. Do they keep that ratio up and stay right away from the ground game? Or
Well, you'd hope not. I think where Steelers will live and die on receivers, to be honest. It'll be dependent on what Claypool and Deontay Johnson and Juju rock up. I think I was thinking about it today. I think the adage that the run game and defense win championships might be slipping away. I think it's become an arms race, literally, to some extent. I think you need to put up lots of points to win. Sort of be interesting to see how the playoffs go.
Yeah, and if there's one area that the Browns are not super strong in, it's probably their secondary defensively. Obviously, you got Garrett and a number of the others that put, Olivier Vernon and others that put excellent pressure on up front. Ronnie Harris, probably their best back, maybe Carl Joseph, but the rest are no name really. With
Denzel
Hayden.
Ward's pretty handy.
Yeah, true, but I mean, is he gonna play? He didn't play in Week 17 game, so it's for me, it's an open question. I worry that it's going to be a blowout and the Browns are going to get smashed because Claypool and Deontay Johnson and Juju are that strong. Brash, am I being overly negative, or has Big Ben still got the ability? Unlike Drew Brees, will Big Ben 300 yards actually include 70-yard touchdown passes?
There's if throws for 2 or 3 70-yard touchdown passes only at 300 yards a day, then the Browns have got the ball a lot of the time as well. This is Myles Garrett versus Ben Roethlisberger game. If Garrett can upset Ben, he's looked pretty ordinary in a few games, right? He's had a couple of renaissance.
Mayfield.
Roethlisberger has looked average some games, Frank, in over the last 6-7 weeks. There was a bit of a renaissance the last couple of weeks, but he sat last week. Week 16, there's a bit of a renaissance with him. But I really think if they can upset Garrett, if Garrett can upset him, then I don't know if he's going to be able to have those 7-step drops to throw something apart.
Yeah, that's where the coverage, I reckon, is key from the Browns. If they can just keep that coverage tight for the first 6 or 10 steps so that he has to stand in the pocket for more than 1 or 2 seconds, I can see the Browns winning it, provided they don't turn the ball over.
Browns are good enough. Browns are good enough.
Certainly. Yeah, it's the first time in many years you could say that about them. They absolutely, even with Cody Parker as the kicker, they're still good enough to win. But
I think, sorry, go.
I always just say, I think there's a really big but, and it's not Ben Roethlisberger's but. It's a really big but in terms of Mayfield in a win threw for less than 200 yards and only 1 TD. That Steelers defense does not give up receiving yards. They just don't. So if you're going to beat them, you're going to beat them the ground game. And I'm just not sure with the COVID absences from their offensive line, I'm not sure that the Browns have the blocking ability to keep that run game going. What do you reckon, Fu?
So just going back to Roethlisberger, it kind of plays with what Blackie was saying. The Steelers' offense has transitioned this year into a Drew Brees offense. Roethlisberger is not throwing it deep, or nowhere near as deep as much anymore. He's no longer the gunslinging quarterback. He doesn't have, through injury, through age, he doesn't have that arm to do it, 50 times a game. And we've seen him throw 50 times a game at times this year. It's all about short passes for them now. And if the Browns can take away that, they don't have to have the most talented of defense to do it. But if they take away that, take away your Johnsons, and obviously Johnson has his drop issues, Juju has his dancing issues. There's all sorts of issues for the Pittsburgh wide receivers, but you need to take away the short passing game and stop them getting open there.
And credit where credit's they've fallen off a bit in the last few weeks because, as I may have called in a podcast, they were fully fraudulent. Hello, GG. But Steelers do deserve credit for keeping, with Brown leaving and Bell leaving, they've kept an offensive juggernaut rolling, and I can see this, of all the games this week, this is the one that could be the biggest blowout if the Browns get in a hole and the Steelers get rolling. But it's my pick for the upset of the week. I'm picking the Browns. Who are you going to pick, Blackie?
Steelers.
Who?
I think too much disruption.
So Blackie's taking the easy COVID excuse to pick Steelers. What are you going to do, Phil?
I'm actually also going Steelers. That blowout you speak of, I think will happen.
Is it too late to change?
Just be grateful that you did co-own a BFFL team, Mr. Fui, all right? Brash, what's your pick?
I'm going with the Browns.
Yes. So we're 50-50.
50-50.
All right, probably the other tip for blowout of the week, everybody's favourite team in the moment, the Buffalo Bills, who are back in the playoffs. Admittedly, were in the playoffs recently as well, unlike the Browns, but I think this is the first year since the 90s that they've been in the playoffs, and you could say they are in the playoffs a strong competitor. Conversely, the Colts scraped in on the fingers of their pinky now. And Fui, we might start with you because I know how much of a fan you are of Phillip Rivers. You're a dead set pick for the Hall of Fame and Super Bowl contender of the year. Do the Colts score in this game?
Yeah. Everyone's talking up the Colts as a bit of a party pooper here. They all forget that they have Mr. Chokey Choke Phillip Rivers at quarterback. So yeah, I don't think they struggle to score, but I don't think they'll have a game, and I don't think they'll have enough. They won't score enough points to win. No.
Is the Colts defense strong enough, Brash? They gave up 260 yards, 2 TDs to Mike Glennon and didn't pick him off one. Mike Glennon.
Yeah, their defense fine. They're an all-round good team that lacks a couple of difference make to get them over top. And as Fui's already said, they've got Rivers who is good enough to get you to a playoff but not win one. And he's old now, or older than when he was last in a playoff. So I can't see that unless the Bills pee their pants or the bus goes to a different stadium. I just can't see how they could lose that game.
I think your former player, Mr. DeForest Buckner, might get a couple of sacks, but
he's only one man. He's only one man, and the issue that he's got is playing a quarterback who gets off the spot very well and does very well outside the pocket. And Buckner is a defensive tackle, so pressure up the middle, yes, but that's not gonna be where the Bills quarterback's gonna be most time.
Blackie, are we going to see an explosive display from the Bills wide receiver? Is Stephon Diggs going to break 200 yards a playoff?
I don't know. I think the Colts defense isn't actually that bad, and I also think outside of Allen, the Buffalo running game doesn't excite me. I think between Moss and Singletary, they're to me just they're Jags, like they're stock standard players, so they pretty much have to win it on the arm. I don't think Colts defense is a pushover at all. I also think Jonathan Taylor's come into his own in the last few weeks. That'll be the key to the game for me. Is how do the run games? I know I said before that run games don't championship anymore, but still an important factor. I think the run games between these two teams are probably the biggest gap in anything. Mm-hmm. I think. Yeah, point. Rivers is the check down king, but the Colts have got some decent weapons. But at the same time, Stephon Diggs is red hot. But I might lean towards this being my upset of the week.
I mean, Jonathan Taylor, and yes, I know it was at the Jags. I know the Jags were playing to ensure that they got the number one pick, but he ran for 203 yards and 2 TDs. Pretty impressive form, And to be frank, I didn't realise. I thought he'd run going for 180. I didn't realise it was 250. That's a, against any team in the league, if he can back that up again next week. Again, and to be frank, the Bills have given up some yards. They certainly gave up some yards to Derek Henry earlier in the year.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, true. Well, isn't that a change? We'll talk about that in a second, but that's a player that's changed the most second half of the season this year compared to his previous season. But the other thing for me is, and I'll be a little controversial in who I pick. I'm going to pick Indy to win this. I think T.Y. Hilton will have 100 yards receiving. Jonathan Taylor will have 150 rushing. And the guy that'll bring the bacon home in the true tradition of BPG and his focus on kicking will be the gentleman that rocks the best glass in the NFL at the moment, Rodrigo Blankenship. And he'll kick 4. Unlike kicking 2 and missing 2, like he did last week, he'll kick 4 field goals and he'll get him over the line. Who's going to win, Foo?
I don't think the Bills will choke until the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I'm going to go the Bills. Not
They're going to take down KC?
I think they might at the moment, but...
Big prediction. Not just... I'm only talking about this week. Colts, Bills. I don't want any prediction for 27 weeks down the track.
They won't win comprehensively, but it'll be probably 5 to 10 point range kind of thing. So
Brash, fans in the stadium?
I'm not up with the most recent COVID lockdown rules in the US. I'm still going to come to grips with the ones in Victoria. The Bills win this, providing they don't shit.
Is there any hope for the likes of Xavier Rhodes maybe pulling off few interceptions? Or
No. What an out there rhetorical silly question. No. Doesn't have to actually play.
Hey?
Nothing. Although my form over the last 12 months, with everything coming up donut in the last 12 months, I wouldn't be surprised if Indianapolis ruined the one thing I'm looking forward to, which is Kansas City Bill matchup somewhere in this playoff.
Give Brash some hope, Blakey. Go on. Tell him that Colt lose.
And he said this dark horse upset.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get him to reevaluate his life choices,
I
or
think
at least tips.
One thing that stands out to me on this is, you'd have a hard time naming the starting tight end on both sides.
Dawson Knox.
Well,
No Ellie Cox.
yeah, I mean, you can, but they're not. They're
And
by no
Jack
means
Doyle.
stars.
Thank you very much.
I don't even know those two are still in the league.
I think, yeah, look, but my point is they're below average tight end. It just goes to show you can get away with it. And, it's not like Dawson Knox is some awesome block tight end blowing in holes for the run game. Yeah.
All right, I'll just pose a question, which we'll talk about next week. Regardless of who wins this game, for me, the most fascinating question about this contest between the Colts and Bills, whether both teams make it back to the playoffs next year, because my tip will be they will both look very different next year if they make it back to the playoffs. More about that next week. Moving on to the other upset candidate of the week, Tom Brady playing some and or all of Alex Smith, Taylor Heineke, and Ron Rivera if Ron comes in to throw the ball. I'm assuming, Blackie, you think this is a cakewalk for Brady, yeah?
Yeah, I kind of do, to be honest.
Even without Mike Evans?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of their strengths, isn't it? The depth at wide receiver for them. I think, is Devin White recovered from COVID yet? I think he's probably one of their most important players. Yeah, look, I'd be happy for Washington to win. I think Scary Terry McLaurin's awesome. I like Antonio Gibson. I think they've done a lot right. They're probably a couple pieces away from being playoff winning team. So Brady all the way.
Philly, Antonio Brown goes over 200 yards, yeah?
Quite possibly. I think what we saw last week is what we were expecting when Brown was signed by the Patriots last year or whatever. So yeah, I think he'll have a big game. Can Washington cause an upset? No. Offensively, I don't think they're there to score enough points. Do I want them to cause an upset? Absolutely. As the Bucs are the only team that have actually stopped the Packers really this year. So yeah, but I can't see it happening. They're just the defense would have to be 110% lights out. Destroy Brady kind of thing. But I can't see him playing that well.
Really important question for you, Brash. Does Tom Brady rush for 3 yards or 4 yards a week?
Depends how many times he's on the 1 yard line, doesn't it? The only thing that worries the spoiler in this whole thing is how shit the playing surface in Washington. And I'm not talking about players slipping fields, but if there's some game-changing injuries in that, it will be interesting to see. And I know we've said the time before, Brady against that Washington defensive line is no joke. If they can tattoo, like Brady, doesn't matter who's wide, and now he's got an all-star cast, even without Evans, is when he stands like a statue in the pocket, he's unbeatable. If that Washington defensive line can literally knock him out of the game, then they're a champ. In fact, I would expect.
Thanks, Greg Williams.
I thought G.G. Williams.
GGXy Ricky Williams. Yes.
Realistically, that's if they want to win, that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to. I'm not saying take his knees out, Frank Gore style.
No.
And Frank Gore's only played for about another 39 years since that game. But they're going to have to make life very uncomfortable for Brady to be a champ.
I don't think Washington has had enough. Obviously, Chase Young, and he probably hasn't done himself any favours with taunting towards Brady on social media. But Chase Young obviously gets a hell of a lot of attention, followed probably by Montez Sweat. John Bostic and Ryan Kerrigan arguably had just good years, coming from very different positions in their careers, obviously very close to the end of each of their careers. And they've had young Cole Holcomb there and Jonathan Allen. So it's a much more multifaceted. Every one of those guys has had at least 2 or 3 sacks in a game this year. And every one of them has also had pass defensive tip that have led to interception. And I'm not sure that Tampa Bay offensive line is good enough to get Brady the time. So I'm going to pick Washington to, I won't say completely redeem the 8th best division in football, but to kind of cover a little bit of the shambles that happened in week 17. And I'm going to pick Washington to beat Tampa Bay. Blackie, who's your pick, man? Have I convinced you?
Wanted to.
Have I put enough polish on it?
I just wanted to raise, you were talking about the defense for Washington, how much of a gem find Cameron Curl was in the 7th round. He's been awesome. I think on the O-line I actually think they've got some really good pieces there. Wirfs has been really good. Ali Marpet, was a small school gem prospect, picked in the draft a few years ago. And Ryan Jensen's obviously decent too. I think they might be okay. But, as you said, Montez Sweat, Daron Payne, Chase Young, there's not enough hands on deck to stop. Would be surprising not to see tight ends staying to block pretty often.
Yeah, and that's where the question then comes, do you trust Rojo? Have they got enough of a running game?
Is Rojo's all recovered now? Yeah, did he have pinky surgery?
Yeah, and he didn't play very well in week 17. I'm not convinced he's fit to be out there myself, to be honest.
Especially when he's already got issues with his hand.
Yeah, he was already a fumble risk. I'm not convinced he should be out there. Fu, you're going to back Tommy Boy, your favourite player of all time after A-Rod and Phillip Rivers. I know that. But broader question, how impactful will Tampa Bay defence be, given they've got Levante David, JPP, the Mongoose head kickers? So they're going to be, as they have been all year, kind of the quiet side of the Tampa team that comes up when there's pressures on? Or do they finally meet their match in the awesomeness that is Taylor Heinicke?
I think... I think the defense probably doesn't have to be on song this week, but as long as they play solid football, solid safe football, they should be fine.
You know what I enjoy about this podcast? I can always throw to Fui for the careful, well-reasoned, well-thought-out fence-sitting argument says nothing.
Well, this game is going to be decided by the Bucks offensive line versus the football team's defensive line. That is what is going to decide this game.
Okay, so Heinicke and Alex Smith are not going to come under any pressure at all, and they're not going to get sacked. It's all about the other side. All right, cool.
They absolutely will, but no one's expecting them to have to score 28, 35 points like we expect from the Buccaneers.
Thank you for saving Fui, Brash.
No, that's just a Fui and I.
You better share some of that winner's prize with Brasher, Fui.
I'm not. I'm just looking at the outs for the Bucks. Oh, Devin White, no Shaq Barrett. That's 2 pretty big outs. Maybe it'd be close.
But I'm still wrong and the Bucks will win, yeah?
Oh, I'm leaning towards this could be an upset now. Part of me thinks as well, because the Bucks will have the biggest nightmare. The Bucks will be deciding who to give carries to, because they obviously hate Leonard Fournette. Rojo's hands are a mess, and Keyshawn Vaughn's completely untested. So it should be interesting.
But the thing I asked you, Blake, is how many points do the Buccaneers need to score?
10.
Yeah.
Really? So, you think that's all that Gibson and McLaurin are going to give Washington?
With that quarterback play, yes.
And Chase Young probably get a touchdown off a Rojo fumble.
That will probably happen. That's probably true.
Washington have scored more points off their defense than their offense in 4 games this year. That's my tip for what I reckon. This is a defensive domination by Washington. I've been underplaying it a bit. I just don't see that Bucks team taking it. But anyway, that'll probably guarantee poor old Washington a 70-point shellacking with Antonio Brown having like 400 yards.
This is the late Sunday morning game for us, isn't it? So that'll be.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I think it's after one of the other games I'm going to promote that hasn't had much coverage. I reckon it's the quiet game of the week. Conversely, T-tail game of the wild card round for me, if there is a T-tail game, is Drew Brees against whichever of the Chicago quarterback side starts.
Boring.
Rash, is Drew Brees
Boring.
is he gonna pad some more stats? He's gonna get some more stats for the biggest passing yards and the most TDs in wild card games by anyone since the 1929 miners' strike. And do any of us care?
Dink and dunk versus dump dunk. What this game is.
That's a bumper stick. That's an American Crow social media post.
This game has no interest in me. They, I can't even get excited about even thinking about when I was in New Orleans. Fortunately, this is the late Sunday game.
Middle one.
Our Sunday, yeah?
No,
Monday.
Oh, damn it. The cancel meeting, move penetrals on Sunday. Actually, okay. Sorry, I'm just fixing my diary. I've got nothing here. I've got nothing. Like, what's to talk about Stat Collector, who broke 63 ribs when a guy fell sideways next to him, right?
Which, by the way, was not called roughing the passer, unlike the Lions Viking call.
It was called roughing the passer.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
Not that one.
Excuse me?
Not that one. Not the one he broke his ribs on. The one before was called.
No, he broke his ribs when on that one, on the roughing the passer one.
Okay. Anyway, getting right back to the playoff game. How can you not be excited by the opportunity to watch not just Pat O'Donnell punting, but Cairo Santos kick field goals?
The fact that you actually mentioned the kicker and the punter, I'd rest my case, Your Honour. What's to watch in this game? It's going to be the Bears fumbling along and New Orleans win because they just do. They win. They are the classic flat track.
Blackie,
and they may well go all the way to the bowl.
Blackie, I'm going to call it the Memorial Kendall Hint game. I know that you're such a big fan of the Saints anyway. Any chance Khalil Mack drives an upset in this game?
I mean, he hasn't been in terrific form. How many sacks would he need to get?
27.
Yeah, probably quite a few. What, hit him in the ribs?
Well, all you have to do is run. All you have to do is run past Breeze, Katie.
Yeah, I don't hold out much hope for them.
It's Fui. Where does the offense come from? We see Jimmy Graham have a 200-yard game for the Bears.
That's probably unlikely. But Montgomery has been playing well. I think that they do look, in my opinion, they do look better offensively with Trubisky in the game. Not that it's hard to look much worse.
I knew there was a reason why we called you the quarterback whisperer, and now I have proof. Yep.
What's his record as starter? It's actually pretty decent. And
Philly, love the fact going well because the whole narrative this year has been bust, Bears move on. You're just happy that he's going to continue to quarterback a team in your division. Tell me I'm wrong.
Oh, you're not wrong. But
when Stafford leaves next year, you got literally no quarterbacks in your division.
Yeah, I know, and that will guarantee another division title. But
the question is, will that division title be worth more than the NFC East division title?
It still will be, yes. But no.
Trubisky, Phil, you're one of these guys who would absolutely go out on town with teammates after on a. I could see Philly's indoor cricket team. Where's the other team? Oh, they thought it was a 7:30 game, but it's a 6 o'clock game. Well, they forfeit. Yay, let's go to the pub.
No. With Fui leading the team, it's much more, hang on, that guy's shoelaces are tied with double knot instead of a single knot. That's a breach of the rules. Forfeit.
Anyway, I'm actually predicting an upset in this game.
You're backing the Bears?
I am backing the Bears. They weren't actually too bad last week.
You guys not even trying.
You doubled their score, Fui.
Yeah, but they weren't that bad.
No, it was Aaron Rodgers trying to do me and Black Soul. He was doing his best.
The Bears defense got a bit of a rocket after this game. In particular, Khalil Mack, just from Bears media. Their D line needs to play really well. That's where their talent, I guess, the most talent on that defense lies. But I think they will get plenty of pressure on Breeze. They will stop the run, and once Taysom Hill comes in, they will recover a few fumbles and score a couple of touchdowns.
And unlike your Bears defense does at least tackle that. So you're picking an upset. Given that, I will stick with the clear favourite Saints, particularly because it played in New Orleans. Brash, who are you going to pick? New Orleans?
I keep thinking of that game earlier in the season when the New Orleans defense, absolute trash. I think it was against Raiders, and they looked like absolute crap. out there. They also looked damn ordinary again. I still can't believe that game was so close against Kansas City. I don't know. The more I'm starting to think about it, the more I actually think the Bears could actually do something here.
Jesus, we should retitle this episode the Festivus of the Underdog.
All right, I'm going the Bears.
Well, next week's going to be an interesting podcast. We might have to get some people to put some money on games and see if they stick with their tip.
I happily will. I happily will. Because when I triple it up, that's more money I can throw in to burn the beer for.
All right, we'll put it $2 on every tip. Put $2 in, and we'll see how we go all the way through the playoffs.
All right, you put
or
it.
Do you
in
want to
then.
go higher than $2? Yeah, $2 will cap it at because Blackie's got to look after his pooch.
I've got a sick fish at the moment.
You always have had weird social preferences. I hope she's a mermaid. The high-profile game of the week, and I got to be frank, wildcard weekends are always a bit weird. This is not stellar wildcard weekend, but the high-profile game of the week after the Browns Steelers is probably Derrick Henry against Lamar Jackson. So start with a really simple question for you, Brash. Who runs for more yards, Lamar or Derrick?
Derrick Henry.
So you'll then be saying the Titans will win this one, yeah?
Because Lamar Jackson, you might have to look up at Ross is actually a quarterback. So he gets to throw it as well.
We are talking about Lamar Jackson, yeah?
He throws sometimes. I think if Tannehill plays one of his top 10% ever games, I think the Titans can win this. I sort of want them to win it. Apologies to the Ravens fans out there, and some of them are very good guys, but I just like the playoffs better when the Ravens aren't.
Name the
Make
good
that a
bloke
collective
Raven
apology
supporters.
because we all laugh.
Isn't Gigi a Raven porter? Or used to be?
He's a Steelers supporter. Jeez, get with the
He
times.
was right. Isn't DRD a Ravens porter, isn't he?
Yeah.
There's a couple there.
There's some good guys out there. What were you going to say, Fu?
No, there's nothing yet.
Yeah. All right, so Fui wimped out, prick. I might be overstating it, but is it correct to say that perhaps, particularly given they gave up 38 points to a high-caliber team like the Texans, fair to say that maybe the weak spot in the Titans game is their defense?
Yes, that is very fair to say at the moment.
And is that the reason why they're going to lose?
I don't think they're going to lose.
You better have a damn big stack of $2 coins, boy.
Why? Wouldn't the Titans be favourites going into this one?
Not with their defense.
But this is kind of what I was alluding to before. Like when we were talking about the Ravens, just their defense. The Ravens' defense doesn't have anything that's really scary about it at the moment.
Other than Lamar Jackson.
I said the defense.
Sorry, my bad.
And yeah, that's where I think that's why I don't think they're really a threat this year. Titans, I think, probably have a few issues in the defensive backfield, but that isn't really going to be an issue against a guy like Lamar Jackson. My worry about Titans, and they should still win, is just their overuse of Derrick Henry, especially this week, trying to get him to that 2,000-yard mark. They should still win, but yeah, it's they wouldn't want to be relying on Henry this week, I think, because I think it'll make things difficult later on in the playoffs if they do.
Blackie, and this may be stretching friendship a little bit, but
Let me get that. Sorry, PPG, I'm just trying to digest what's said. So what you're saying is our best chance of winning is to use our running back, but we don't want to overuse him. We might probably need him later in the playoffs, but if we don't run him, he's going to get hurt and we won't win anyway. I'm trying to understand what you just said.
I think that's the logic, because I was lost, but I think now, can you draw that like on a whiteboard? Because I think you've got it.
I am the John Madden of speaking.
I'll put together a fishbone diagram for that one.
Be sure to highlight the delta. Please highlight the delta.
They need to run the ball, but I don't think they should run the ball.
Which means they won't win, so they're not really saving for anything next week, are they?
I love Blackie. I love how that insightful analysis, Fui, quietly overlooked the fact that Baltimore have a running back called J.K. Dobbins
Stole my thunder.
and a defense that features Malik Harrison and Matt Judon, one or two other kind of decent players like Patrick Queen. Would you care to offer an alternative theory of how this game is going to play out, or are we all right to just write off J.K. Dobbins and Lamar Jack's running threat and just give the game now to the Titans and their magnificent defense?
No way. No. Ravens will get it done. J.K. Dobbins is seriously good. He's just one of the many exceptional running backs that came in the 2020 draft. I don't know why they've kept him in the back pocket so long, but they've finally unleashed, and he just looks $1 million. I think he's going to be very good in they've still got Mark Andrews. As long as they don't pass the ball to Hollywood Brown too much, they'll be okay.
See, Philly, that's how you do analysis of a game.
When I'm right, see.
So
I
then
can't
why,
wait for next
then
week.
why did you post that ridiculous question of who's going to run more? Jackson, why didn't you just say Dobbins?
Because that was an easy answer, because Dobbins is clearly going to
That
run
was a
more than
practical
Henry in this
question.
game. Whereas
Such a
Lamar
obvious-
Jackson, I actually, and I'll be fair, I think Philly deserves credit
Such a
for
bureaucrat.
picking up on the fact that Lamar is clearly trying to throw the ball more in the second half of the season. I don't know how much of that is because Hollywood Brown chucked it to Tanty. I hope none of it, and I hope it's more about getting yards out of Mark Andrews. But what it's done for me is it's actually opened up, because everybody's so keyed on Lamar being a running threat, they forget about the guys that are actually running backs in the backfield. And J.K. Dobbins not the kind of guy you can forget about. You give him one step and he takes 5, That's why I asked the question, because to be frank, I can see Henry running for 200 yards and the Titans losing. Henry ran for 250 and 2 TDs, and they only beat the Texans by 3 points. They're not a strong defensive team, and for me, that's the rationale of this game, not some whiteboard analysis that Fui's brain cooks up while he's eating chicken nuggets.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm putting my $2 on the Ravens. Blackie?
Oh, I'd put more than $2 on the Ravens. I think it's almost a natural hedge though, because if the Ravens cock it up in playoffs again, it's going to be quite spectacle because the media will come after them, and Lamar Jackson very, very hard. But I think they'll get it done.
High stakes game for the quarterback there, Brash.
Look, you make a really good point about the running backs and all this. I'm going to go the Titans.
Oh, Fui, I just sold somebody on your argument, mate. And I didn't even need a whiteboard. I'm assuming you're back in the Titans, Fui. Yeah?
I am, yes.
Said that twice already. Just double
Go,
checking,
Philly.
giving you a chance to change your bet. All right, for me, the most exciting game of the whole round of white card game, truly a festival of a division of genuine competitive excellence, unlike anything involving the NFC East. Old mate Jared Goff, assuming that John Worsfold doesn't start at quarterback again. Old mate Jared Goff up against Russell Wilson. Everybody seems to be tipping this one, and I'll throw to you, Brash, because it's your division. Everybody seems to be tipping this one as a bit of a straight out lay down misère for Russ Wilson. You convinced?
No, not at all. If they play like they did last weekend, they're not going to win, Seahawk. This is similar to what I said before about Tannehill. If Goff plays one of his exceptional games that he can play every now and again, I think they're a chance to win it. What was really distressing if you're a Seahawks fan is you had to be worried about that offensive line on the weekend. There's a bunch of no-names on that 49ers defensive line, and they had on skates all day. And then you got Aaron Donald. Seriously, if this is going to come down to two things: the Rams win, defensive scheme and offense play call. So it's all on coach. So if this is there for the Rams coaching staff to make a point of why they get paid.
Mm-hmm.
This is there for them to win if they coach it properly.
I only take issue with one aspect of your analysis. I don't think you're giving enough credit to the enormous threat that Russell Wilson faced from the outstanding defense talent that the 49ers have unearthed, known as Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles.
Just stop it. He gave up at least one touchdown.
Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. Get the jersey. You heard it here first. Honest question, Fui. Russ Wilson's part of the Seahawks, and we talked probably 3 weeks in a row earlier in the year about whether the balance between offense and defense that the Seahawks were trotting out when they were winning a lot was really sustainable. Is this the culmination of that gradual wearing down of the defense, where a no-name team like the Rams, even anchored by the dead weight that is Jared Goff, somehow manages to pull off a win?
I don't. Is Goff definitely going to play?
Well, if he doesn't, the pharmacist will be filling in for him.
That's right. I think that goes a long way to. Honestly, I don't think it's a good idea because he had a broken thumb on his throwing hand, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. No. I remember watching Brett Favre with a broken thumb on his throwing hand, and it didn't end well.
That's because he had it up his own arm.
Look, yeah, the Seahawks, the Seahawks are probably riding. Well, they probably need to ride Wilson a bit longer, and probably for the rest of the playoffs if they are going to do anything. The defense just flat out isn't good enough for them to have the balance that you were talking about. So yeah, I guess if Goff is somewhat effective, which I don't think he will be, then the Seahawks will be in trouble. But as I said, I don't think Goff if he plays, will be anywhere near what he needs to be to get a win. So
Blackie, maybe help me out a little bit. Do you get more points out of the defense on this one if you're the Rams, or do you rely on? I mean, I don't really know that they've got much other option really, other than forcing lots of turnovers.
Look, I think Cam Akers probably get fed. To be honest, he's pretty much their great white hope. Yeah, I don't think they've got many other options. Cooper Kupp's obviously good. Robert Wood's good. Van Jefferson had the most targets he's ever had. I can't see them going to a largely untried rookie at wide receiver, but I can see them doing that for a guy that's looked pretty decent in the run game. I think Seahawks beatable for sure. Since Russ's hot start to the season, he hasn't looked that hot. People talking about DK Metcalf being the best wide receiver in the league. He's cooled off. They obviously still have Tyler Lockett, but their defense is pretty lackluster on pass rush side, even with Blitz Boy and Carlos Dunlap coming back.
Yeah, and I mean, let's face it,
Adams got badly hurt.
He did.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's going to be back at 100% if he's back.
Adam won't be 100.
And
They don't need him to be because he doesn't go into coverage. They just need him to run in a straight line.
That's all he does.
At the QB.
That's exactly right. That's all he does.
12 steps and post on social media. Let's not forget that. I mean, for me, it was a revelation that, again, no offense, Brash, I think you'd agree with this, against a pretty second string 49ers team, Russ Wilson, who was, burning the league apart with throwing, he didn't get a single receiver over 100 yards.
And I think Locker was pretty close.
Locker
90.
got to 90.
But I mean, you compare that when Russ was throwing 350, 400 yards, totally different offense there now. He only completed 20 out of 36. That's not a great passer reception.
No, and it credit to both Witherspoon, although he gave up the go-ahead touchdown, which was a crazy route from Lockett, and Verrett blanketed it.
And Demetrius Flanagan fell.
Just please don't do that, okay? Please, just don't. Okay. As soon as I saw him run out, I thought, can my season get any worse? When I saw him running out in place of Greenlaw, I thought, like, can this season get any worse? Like, really?
You should get the jersey, Brash, because it has more than enough letters.
So I can make
cut
I can make any player's name I want. Yeah, good. I've thought of that. So that's why I don't want us to go get a quarterback like Jones. Fucking boring jersey to buy. Jones.
You can get Alex Smith back. Yeah.
I already ordered the rosin one anyway.
So what do you think, Brash? Is it going to be as much of a lay down Missouri Seahawks win?
No. If you follow the NFC West, there's always upsets in this division. Seahawks actually go pretty well against the Rams normally, but the Rams normally played them pretty close too. I didn't realise Goff doubtful game. Just something about that offensive line. See, this is one of those games where one team's strength really plays in well against the other team's biggest weakness, but the biggest weakness of the other team, that team does have a strength to offset it, right? So the Rams offensive line goes straight up against Seattle offensive line, which is, if the entire week of Seahawk practice is not just taken up on scramble drills, then they're wasting their time. I don't even know why they're going to try and run any. On the other hand, the weakness of the Ram is their linebacker, but Seattle doesn't really do a lot in that domain, right? They don't have stellar tight ends.
They don't do those dink and dunk.
Yeah,
Lockett
Lockett does run crossing route, but again, back to that script stuff, you got this little guy called Donald in the middle that can put paid to that stuff as well. So greatest strength versus biggest weakness, I'd have to give it to Rams.
And I'm certainly on that analysis. It is
if
one
Goff
where
doesn't fuck it up, I think they.
Or Worsfold if Worsfold's starting. Sorry, I should call him by his correct name for once. Wolford. I can get Flanagan fouls right. I can get right.
Yes, right.
But I do think it's a really good analysis in terms of peak strength versus peak strength. And I'm not convinced just Aaron Donald that they have in Morgan Fox and Leonard Floyd. They have pretty underrated front pressure players as well.
No, they're not underrated. Same thing. And when Blackie describing what's happened in Washington, exactly the same thing. One player who is stellar better, is just head and shoulder better than everybody else, makes everybody else better, right? So all of a sudden on Washington, you got to worry about where Chase all the time. Means offensive linemen aren't singly just worried about one player on, in front of them. They're worried about the fact that maybe they've got to help mate block Chase. And the same happened to Donald, and we've seen the same thing with like the 49ers losing both, right? So I think those guys, I won't call them underrated. I think they're probably overachieving because what they've got as a superstar to hang on to his coattails.
Jalen Ramsey, one of the most improved players this year. Black.
Jalen Ramsey
Hey.
improved. Hey,
Yeah, just ask.
fuck no. You love throwing out this
He's now
bizarre
worth
shit.
3 first.
Sorry.
He's now worth 3 first round.
And I think the Rams ownership are feeling a little bit like guilty, so they're going to bump him up to like $150 million salary.
That was kind of the
this
point of my
Steelers
question: was is he finally repaying about a third of what they invested in? But
I think there's a lot more for him to do. They went all in on him, but at least what's very good about Ramsey is get paid and sit on his ass. right?
hello,
And,
Carson
and he
Wentz.
does more than blitz.
Yeah, in a straight line.
And he stays off social media. On that note, and any other insight, and probably for me, the favourite question that I always have on Wildcard Weekend, and I'll ask it once globally from each of you. If their team loses, having made the playoffs, the coach most likely to be sacked.
Say again.
On Wildcard Weekend,
Yep.
about every fourth year, there's a team that loses in the wildcard round and then immediately sacks their coach. Is it going to happen this year? And if so, which team will it be that sacks their coach?
That's easy. The Bears. Nagy out the door.
Really?
Maybe even if they win. Yeah.
Fuck's in his girlfriend.
So I know who you're going to be putting $2 on.
I know, mate. If I got fired and I had a girl like that at home, I'd be like, sorry, babe, I'm here every day.
Thank you for
Fuck,
creating and editing, Kelly.
just on
Yeah, I
the,
think it'd have to be Nagy, no one else.
You don't reckon Pete Carroll? You
Oh,
don't reckon-
fuck, seriously?
Yeah,
I
what they've done is
wish.
bizarre though. I was thinking about it. Like for a team that went all in on getting Adams to try and tip themselves into a Super Bowl, their draft was bizarre. Like Jordan Brooks, Jordan Brooks brought in to basically be their heir apparent to Wagner. Like, why don't you add someone that's going to help you win a Super Bowl?
I know. Why, like Wagner, Wagner and Warner, that arguably is head and head who's the best middle linebacker in the NFL between those two, and you bring a backup in for that. That's a bit like what the Packers did with their draft.
Hello, Eagles.
Totally.
And Eagles, right? It's like why waste?
Eagles brought in a starter, not a backup.
The reality of it is, as Pete Carroll is, seems to have a good locker room. Look, he's an outsider in. The reality of it is, you take them out of that team, mate, and they are a 4-12 team. They are a 4-12 team without Russ.
And how much of that is due to Pete Carroll's system offensive game plan that's as slanted, and the selection of players and the refusal to go get talent certain areas? Like, when was the last time
It's
they went?
really bad drafting.
Yeah.
They've
Rashad
always
Penny.
been.
Oh.
They've always drafted purely, right? They've always been not the norm in the way they've drafted, whether it be position or the player chose. They've hit on a few, obvious, but most of the hit come round 4 to 7, not 1-3.
Or the Philadelphia Eagles just pass people. But anyway, we'll go there. All right, so that's my pick, Pete Carroll. Obviously, Blackie, you don't think anybody's going to get sacked except for Nagy, maybe?
It'd be interesting to see. I don't think Harbaugh is in danger at the Raven, but I think if they go one and done again, the media scrutiny is going to be off. It'll be outrageous.
Yeah, which is sort of why I want them to lose well, because that'd be fun.
Agree.
It would be. It would be awesome. No one else. I can't. Can I ask you a question back?
Only after Fui answers my question.
Sorry.
But hey, hang on. We all know that he's going to say a coach might be sacked, a coach might not be sacked. Thanks.
Well, there's two things I want to say. First, I just wanted to go back to the Seahawks and Rams. The Rams defense has had 11 sacks in their 2 games against the Seahawks this year.
Against the Seahawks.
Yes.
Sacking themselves. The Rams, sorry. The Rams against Seahawks.
Yes.
Is that what you said? Okay. 11.
Yes, 11 sacks by the Rams defense. Leonard Floyd has had 5 of those. So he's had 3 and 2 in each game over the past couple of months. And that's where, if they do win, that'll be where. So I just wanted to throw out that little one.
Thank
In terms of
And your second question is, where's my nugget?
I'm actually really hungry right now, so nuggets would be good.
Oh my, I'm starving too.
In terms
I've
of
been looking at
coaches,
menu log for the last half hour.
in terms of coaches being fired, I think the only real possibility is Nagy, but given I've gone for the upset, it probably won't happen.
On that happy note, we'll end our fantasy-covered football celebration. Thank you, gentlemen, for the podcast. Very enjoyable evening, and
Cheers,
we'll
boys.
catch up hopefully
Thanks,
at some
guys.
point.
Yes, definitely.
Stay well.